welcome to Grow Your Brand on Social Media. It's a 3-day live series, and today we're on day 2. Day 2, we're talking about how to grow your brand on social media. So yesterday we talked about what is branding on social media, how are those two linked together? And I dropped a few hints about things that we were going to be talking about today. So today we're really talking about how to grow your brand on social media. So we know that we want to be on social media because we want people to see us, and not in a way of like, I'm showing off, everyone look at me, but in a way of reminding people that we exist, reminding people of what we can do to help them, serve them, solve their problems, especially if you are a business owner or you have a business and you're showing up for your business. These are key. Now, if you are an employee of a business and you're wanting to brand yourself personally, the same rules apply. So we're just looking at it from a slightly different perspective. And in that sense, you want to show up with your brand, regardless of whether you are the business owner. If you are showing up as the business, you as an individual want to have your individual brand. This is something that so many people are overlooking because it's still relatively new concept of saying like, I need my own personal brand on social media. Now we can think about this in person. In person is the way people think about us. We network and people are remembering us, but not everyone knows how to network and not everyone knows how to network well. So if you didn't have those skills to begin with, it makes it a little bit harder to transition over into the digital world, but that's okay because you can learn now. This is something that you can do at any point within your career. And you should be on social media because you want people to be able to find you. When you make a connection and maybe they're going to offer you a job in the future, right? You want to be able to have them find you. So your personal brand is just as important as your business brand. Now let's talk about both of those together. So when we think about our brand, whether it's personal or whether it's our business, we want people to think of keywords when they think of us. So this is an activity for today. So write this down, whether you do the activity right now or not, that's okay. What words do you want people to think of when they think of you? Now you can do a column for your business and a column for you if that's what you want, but really they should be in alignment. If you are the vision holder of your business, those should be in alignment. Now, what that means is everything that is of value to your business should also be on your value bucket, but you might have additional things. Okay. So for your business, for example, what keywords do you want people to think of when they think of your business? How do you want people to feel when they think of your business? Is it a positive image? Of course, I hope so. Is it a feeling of trust, integrity? Is it organization? Is it knowledge? Okay, those are some of those basics, but then let's also think of what are those key things that pop into their mind. Now, another way to look at this is if someone was to write a testimonial about a service that you offer, if someone was to write you a personal review, what would you want them to say in that personal review? And that's a great activity because, for one, sometimes people want you to send them an example. I don't know about you, but as a business owner, I've asked for testimonials before, and not everyone is really great at writing testimonials. So sometimes it's really great to give them an example. This is what someone else wrote. Is that true for you? And a lot of times too, when we see something, it goes, oh, well, yeah, I could add that and I could take this away. But just try to think of it from scratch, from the beginning with nothing. It's a little bit harder to just create something from nothing. It's a lot easier to create something from something else. All right. So you can even look at this when you look at other people's brands. Go out there and look. Who is it that you admire for your business? Who out there in the business world do you admire? Who do you think's doing it well? Go out there and look at those and write down what you like that they're doing well. And you can also have a list of things that you don't want to do, things that you don't like, because sometimes we can fall into those traps really easily. And it might be that's why that business is doing it as well. They might not even recognize it. So go out there and look. And not only are you looking at what your competition is, I try to tell people not to have a competition mindset, but in all reality, those are the people that you are competing with. And it's not that you want to try to outdo them, but it is that you want to be slightly different. You want to have your edge. They might be good for one thing and you great. If you have a potential client or someone that isn't a good fit for you, you can send them over that way. It's a big thing on abundant mindset. I'm huge about getting out of that scarcity and that fear and allowing yourself to think a little bit more organically, a little bit more in the flow, a little bit less in scarcity, less competition, and let's focus on the positive. So scarcity focuses on the negative. We want to focus on the positive. What makes us unique and different? We don't need to put anybody down in that process. And that's part of my brand personally. That's one thing that I really put into one of my 4 pillars. We're going to come back to those in just a moment. So what we're really thinking about here is what keywords do we want people to think of personally as our business? And then if someone was going to write a testimonial or review, let's write that out. What would we really want them to say about us? Now, as we have that, it's a really important activity because we can look at and we go, are we really showing up in that way? Whether how we deliver and how we promote ourselves. Are we putting that off? Are we allowing people to really see that part of us? And then as a consumer, what do we value as important when we go out and we get, business from other people? When you're going to hire someone, what is it, those key values that you want to really make sure someone's in alignment with you? And again, it might start with those things that are absolutely a no for you. And then we can work to what's the opposite of that. What is the yes for you? And again, if that's what's really important to us when we ourselves are a consumer, then that is one of our values. And we need to make sure that we're also showing up in that same way within our business. Why do I stress that? That seems so common sense sometimes. Is because a lot of us have our tendencies and we have our habits. We have our tendencies and we have our habits. I did a really fantastic workshop. I didn't host it. I went to it at one of the jobs that I was at. And they talked about how we show up in our work like we show up in our family sometimes. Those same insecurities, if you were the youngest child, middle child, oldest child, only child, those same tendencies might start to show up, not right away, but as we get settled into our workspace and our workspace becomes like a family, we might fall into those roles. I thought that was beautiful. I'm also a therapist, and I was like, yes, that is so true. I see that. And that is really important for us to recognize because we can show up into these habits and these tendencies and our comfort zones as we try to build our brand. So it's really important for us to have that anchor for us to keep coming back to and checking into until our new brand habits become habits. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox on that. So with your brand, we really want to focus on what keywords, what values are we trying to come across? Now, if you hold true that, I think someone, when they're going out to an interview or they're going to network, they really should show up as their best authentic self. They don't need to completely overdo it, but they also don't need to underdress as well. Okay. So my 3 words that I'm always using is clarity, consistency, and confidence. And confidence is definitely one of those qualities. I want people to show up confidently And that's very attractive. And actually, when I'm looking for clients, I find people that don't show up with confidence because I want to help them. Okay. So we can work in that way. Back on point. If it's important for me to show up with confidence, then I need to display that. Okay. So for me, showing up with my funky glasses and my hair is done in my way, like I'm showing up as me. Now, if I value that, yet I'm showing up on the camera all the time and I'm glammed out like I'm going to a gala, or I'm also in my pajamas, that doesn't bring alignment with the things I'm talking about. So we do need to have that visual display of our brand to show who our target market is and what our key concepts are. Okay, so you need to show up in alignment in a physical, visual way, in alignment with your target audience and with your core values. So, for example, if my target audience was women and specifically women, which I also work with men, but my brand, I tend to work a lot with women. I might throw in some pinks colors, right? And we see a lot of these women who do this. Their website has flowers and lots of beautiful things that would attract their specific target audience. Now, my color branding is more on my side. So it fits in with these fall colors, which are warm and inviting. Even has a little bit of a Halloween look sometimes because I really like that mystical, moody sense. And that's just a part of my personality. And our brand is important in that sense of showing up with a personality, showing up with a visual representation of what we are trying to communicate, because there are a million, 100, let's say hundreds of thousands of people who are probably in your same industry, some way, somehow. How do people pick and choose and make choices for who they're going to work with? Now, sometimes that's just who's in front of them, or it is, I know a friend of a friend. But often, if we're overwhelmed with amount of choices, especially online, and we see something that is eye-grabbing, eye-catching for that particular person because it resonates with their style. It resonates with something that they find attractive. Maybe they like the same colors that I use. Maybe they also like crown molding, and maybe they also like, this kind of moody vibe. Well, then they're going to choose me over someone else because I'm showing up, and I'm showing up representing my personality. I'm showing up representing who I am. That allows them to have more confidence and security that they're choosing someone that is similar to them. For example, we go to a networking event. We're most likely going to want to keep talking to people that we have something in common with. Right. So it's a lot easier for women to go talk with women. And if someone's got a stylish purse and they really like that purse because they also value purse shopping, I'm just throwing out examples. They're going to be more likely to go up to that person because they can offer a compliment. They can have some way to connect. And so it's all about how we can connect with people, and it's all about relationship building. Okay. So how do we grow our brand on social media? So we went over the first part. So the key words, the testimonial, and then part two, we're also talking about that physical representation of our personality, of our style, and making sure that we're showing up authentically, right? And we want to show up in that authenticity consistently as well. So this is where we do see, you can spot the target ad. You can spot a certain brand because they use the same colors, or they use the same style, they use the same fonts. And so every time we see those colors and those fonts together, we think of that brand. Okay. And yes, as we mentioned yesterday, your logo is really important. Does your logo accurately represent what you do? Is it versatile if you're versatile? Is it boxy if you are more inside the box? So those symbols are representing your brand as well. So we want something that feels good for you, that you feel inspired, that you feel proud of what you've created and what you're doing. That's really important too. Okay. So the other thing that I really want to mention when creating your brand is your 4 pillars and sticking to your content. So your content is also part of your brand. And we're going to talk tomorrow more about how you can stay consistent in your content. And we're going to talk more about these 4 pillars and the different types of content that you really need to be showing up online with. So tomorrow's more about the actual social media and that content and staying consistent. So make sure you tune back in tomorrow for that as well. But these 4 pillars are really those 4 key values. So you looked at what words you want people to think of when they think of you. You looked at what you want a testimonial or a review to look like. And if you could break that down into 4 key words that you really want people to feel, know about you and your company. Something like if you were, and this is me. I used to be, well, still kind of am, in the yoga, the fitness, the nutrition, the mindset, the self-care into that realm. So for example, you might have 4 pillars of spirituality. You might have a pillar of nutrition, a pillar of energy levels, and a pillar of the physical. And within each one of those pillars, multitudes of content can come out, such as nutrition, right? We all have to eat. So this is a good example. Nutrition. So we can start talking about carbs and fats and sugar and maybe even weight loss, nutrition for weight loss or nutrition for weight gain. I've had clients that need to gain weight as well. So we can have all these different categories that can come out of nutrition itself. Versus if we are talking about just weight loss all the time, we might have our different pillars that are coming out of weight loss. So you can do a little diagram, make your circle in the middle, your big giant main topic. What do you want people to think of you? That might be your elevator speech or your title, so to speak. And then these 4 pillars come out, or they might come down. And then from those pillars, then we have an out branch of, like I mentioned, carbs, sugar. And even within carbs, there's a multitude of things you can talk about. Within sugars, there's a multitude of things that you can talk about. And so you can really start to create this mind map of what is okay and what stays in your brand for you to talk about. And when you talk about, let's say, sugar, you would bring it back to nutrition. You would bring that nutrition back to weight loss. Okay. And so you would make sure that you're staying on target and you're coming back to your key point, the transformation that you're trying to offer. And essentially, within our brand, that is exactly what we want to represent. And so again, I mentioned, do your research. Look at who else is out there trying to do what you're doing. And how can you set yourself apart from them? Because your brand is what makes you uniquely you. It's what people think about when they think of you. So if I was to show up in every single video with some funky glasses, people might go, oh, what was that one girl who was talking about social media branding? She had the cute glasses on. Who was that? She was talking about, and they would be able to say the key things that I was talking about. You get my point? So it's how they can relate to you, how they can find you. If they forgot what your name is, if they forgot what your business name was, and they had to search key things to find you, what would they be searching? That tells you what are the strong points within your brand. So again, we're going to come back to those 4 pillars tomorrow. But another big point that I need to bring up today, This is the biggest one. And I was talking to someone about this yesterday, and this is one that I even struggle with myself because it's getting personal and it's getting emotional. Emotions are a huge factor within branding. What emotions, and we already said this, how do they feel? What do they feel? What words do they associate? We associate words based on feelings. So, your brand and how people remember you and how much they remember you is going to be based on how you made them feel. Did you make them feel empowered? Did you make them feel heard? Did you make them feel understood? These are core things that really need to happen. Did they feel relatable? Relatable. Okay. And these are going to be based on the stories that you tell. And your stories can be examples, they can be metaphors, they can be stories of successes that you've had with clients. They can be your personal stories. So, one story that I used to tell a lot, and it really did have a big impact, was how in my business I needed to get organized and I need to simplify. And I really needed to get my stress levels under control because life was getting so chaotic that I remember at one point I pulled over on the side of the road coming home from my MBA, and I was working a job, I was running my business, I had two kids who have issues, and I was also doing a full-time MBA in the evening and sometimes on Saturdays. And I remember pulling off on the side of the road because I was crying so hard, and I just felt exhausted. I felt like I wasn't going to win. I wasn't going to succeed. I didn't know how I was going to succeed. I was just pushing, pushing, pushing. And I kept reminding myself of this vision that I had, that life was going to get easier, but I had to break through and break through this wall, this boundary that was up for me. And I needed to overcome that, and that it was going to get easier. But I had this moment where I just felt so defeated. And in that moment, I had to start giving myself some powerful words. And thankfully, through my meditation practice and through my spiritual practices, I was able to give myself some better words. I was able to tell myself, remember the end goal. Remember why you're doing this. Remember that this is not forever, that there is an end date to this. Remember all the people that you're going to impact by teaching them this. Think about all the businesses that you can help and all the businesses that you can help create. And I let it all out. And then I put the car back in drive, and I got back on the expressway and I made my way home. And guess what? That didn't last forever. Life got a whole lot better. And although I still have my struggles, I've noticed the importance of self-care. I've identified my tendencies to put too much on my plate. And I've started to be able to say no to certain things and to prioritize has been a huge, huge key in my life. And really recognizing what are my pillars? What are the things that are truly, truly deeply important to me? What are my priorities? And how can I be intentional in life? And so by telling you that story, you're able to understand me a little bit more. And maybe you're able to relate. Another story is when life got so stressful, it was just so frantic. I was having so much negativity in my life. And I had read this in a story and it resonated with me so much. I had went to a talk, and I think it was called The Sweet Spot, and it was not what it sounds like. It was actually talking about finding that balance in your life. It was written by a doctor, and she was talking about how she was so overworked and overloaded that she just wished She could get in a car wreck or something and just be laid up in a hospital bed so that she could have a break on purpose. And so that she didn't have to feel guilty about it. And no one would give her a hard time about it because there would be this extreme reason why she needed to just lay there and rest. And I resonated with that story so much because when I was reading that, I had went to the lecture and then bought the book, and I was reading that and I was like, wow, this woman gets it. She's been there. And I was so devoted to reading the rest of the book because there was this relatable story, and I knew that this book was going to have the perspective that I needed to read. So these stories are extremely important. And if anybody that works with me, they know that I use metaphors all the time. I am always pulling metaphors out. And it's, when you're cleaning up your business and you're trying to grow your brand, and it's like, you're like, well, I already had all this stuff I was doing, and I don't want to have to start over. And of course, you're never starting over because you always have your experience that you already had. But it was like in high school when I was painting, I was a big painter, and I really did not want to paint over the artwork that I'd already created. And my art teacher, she just kept reminding me, and she was an art teacher. She actually had art in the galleries around town. So I had a deep respect for her. And she was very motherly to me. And she just kept reminding me, it's okay to paint over it and start over. It's okay to paint over it and start over. And it took me a long time to actually do it. And it was very painful to paint over it. But then once I did, the paintings were getting better. And I was able to let go of this attachment that I had to all the work that I'd already done, thinking that it was just there. But since I had done it, I had gained the practice. Practice makes progress, not perfection. Practice makes progress. And we're always striving for progress. Your brand is never going to be 100% perfect. Why? Because humans are not 100% perfect, and we need to show up authentically. We don't want to represent perfection, because if we're representing perfection, perfection's always changing. So it might be perfect in the moment, but 2-3 days from now, what perfect looks like is going to be different. And so we're only setting ourselves up for a disaster if we're focused on perfection. This is all about progress and continuing to grow your brand. Grow your brand. Okay. So as you grow your brand on social media, you spread. So just like a garden, and if you're a gardener, when your cucumber vines or your zucchini vines start to grow, they start to take over. And as we grow our brand, our outreach spreads. And as our outreach spreads, we show up in a Google search more. We show up when we're searching for something. You just start showing up in people's news feeds. People like what your message is, and they'll share what you're doing. We don't always have to recreate the wheel. For example, like if someone did a fantastic post or made a fantastic video and it's not my expertise, I can share that in my group. I can share that on my page, and I can say, this is really important, and this is how it ties into what I'm doing. And so that's a great point as far as what you can share on social media. It doesn't always have to be your content. Now, I would say at least 50% should be your content. But the other 50% can be sharing other people's stuff. It can be saying, hey, I read this article. It's really great. But if we are looking to become an industry expert, and if you want to be seen as an industry expert as part of your brand, then you need to be writing. You need to be either coming live or writing blog posts. You need to have some sort of content that displays your knowledge, displays your expertise. If you want people to work with you in some type of manner, they need to have the confidence that you're going to deliver. Such as if you're going to pay me to be your teacher, then you would want to see me teach. to make sure that I speak at a pace that is comfortable for you, that I'm using words that resonate with you, that you're able to pick up on the concepts that I'm trying to teach. That's important. But if you were going to hire me to edit a website or do a blog post for you, you would want to see examples of that. You would want to see the style. And I've had that happen before where someone's like, let me write you a blog post and feature that. And I was like, okay, give me a sample. And I see the sample and I'm like, that's not like what I would write. That's not the style that I would write in. And again, it's also dependent on who your target audience is. You want there to be alignment. You want there to be connection. So we want to build a relationship, and that's so important. And that's why we show up with our stories, our story brand. That's why we show up with our campaigns, our social media campaigns. That's why we show up with our branding to show our personality, our colors, and our physical display. This is all about building relationships, and how we're showing up should help us to build those relationships further, such as having those conversations in the DMs. And I mean conversations, not just sales pitches. They're a human. There's a human on the other side of that direct message. Speak to that human. Don't just see them as an opportunity. See them as another human being who also has stories, who has amazing insight that you can gather. Again, as we do that research and we look at what else is out there, we also need to think about the people who are interacting with us, the people that we can send a direct message to, a DM. Sending them messages, you can gain important insight into the industry. And you can also make some really good friends. I've made some really great friends who are just social media friends. And one day maybe we'll meet in person, but especially over COVID and networking, we've made some really great friendships. And it's a beautiful thing. Like, this is the new networking. And so showing up with your brand, think about how you want to be represented. With your brand, you get to choose how people perceive you. And you get to show up in that way. So as we've done all this work today, we've asked ourselves these questions. Make sure that you really know these things, because tomorrow, as we talk about, what we're actually putting on as social media, when we're talking more about how do we take these content pillars and map them out for the month, and how do we post so that we're not posting the same thing all the time, how we get into that, it's really, really important that what are your values, what are those words that you want people to relate to you, and what do you really want those testimonials or reviews to say about you. And then if you're constantly scrolling through social media, notice what grabs your attention. What is it that grabs your attention? What stops your scroll? Is it certain colors that are grabbing your attention? Is it certain quotes? Is it certain subject matters? What subject matters would you easily talk to about with someone like in the grocery store line? That's my joke, because I tend to do that. I get in conversations in the grocery store line, or if I'm at a party, suddenly I'm talking about hormones or and how to balance those, and how the mind and body are connected. Like, those are passions of mine. And I love the psychology behind social media branding. I love the psychology behind marketing. I love building relationships. And so all of those things are really important to me. And so I could talk about hypnotherapy until I'm blue in the face. So what are those key things that are just so easy for you to talk about, that are always coming up in your conversations, that people are going to recognize you for? And make sure that you write those down. Make sure you have those ready, because that's going to be really important as you very easily begin to transition into actually showing up consistently online and establishing your brand. So thanks for joining me today on Grow Your Social Media, your brand, your personal brand, your business brand. And tomorrow, Day 3, we're going to be talking about the consistency that is needed. And it's a little bit more than just show up every day. I'm not going to tell you that. But it's the different styles that you can show up and why it's important to sprinkle a little bit of a few different things in and what those look like. And for example, if you go live once a month, is that having the impact that you want? You might need to go live once a week. You don't have to do it every 3 days or every day. But there does need to be a frequency or a cadence in which you do certain things so that people can see it. Because if you've ever scrolled through your own page and you're trying to find something you posted, and it's way down, maybe 20 posts away, if you can't find it, no one else is. So those top 5 posts are what people are really looking at. And so we need to keep that variety going. And so we're going to talk more about that tomorrow. So thanks for joining me today on Grow Your Social Media Brand. I'm Izzy Nally, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.